Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for two Facebook groups, Fans of Serif Software and Affinity Design and Photo Group. Now this is an adaptation of a Photoshop tutorial which I had on one of my magazines, a CD that came free with the magazine, and that magazine was Digital Photo, and it's now defunct, the magazine. I've been going through a lot of my older CDs that I've got from this magazine to see which ones I think will work well in Affinity Photo. This is the one I'm going to try this time. They used an image of some food, food still life, and they converted it in 3 different ways. And this was the first one that they tried, which was a gritty black and white image. Now really you don't need to have a food still life, you could add this to whichever image you want to add it to really, but I'm going to stick with the sort of premise of the original Photoshop tutorial and use a food still life image, and this particular one I got from Pixabay.com, and I will add a link to this image in the description for the video. I've actually made 3 macros of this in the practice run-up to this video, and I will be adding these to the file section of both the Facebook groups. And the way I'm going to show you first in this video is macro number 2, I believe it is, so that the sort of middle graininess image. So let's start this tutorial. So we have your image open. Now you don't necessarily have to do this first part, it is merely for comparison reasons, so we can go back and see what it looked like if you wanted to, but I will follow the tutorial as best I can and exactly as I can. So I'm going to duplicate this background layer. I'll just right click on the layer and come to duplicate, or you can press Ctrl and J. So the first thing I want to do next is to add an adjustment, which is to make it a black and white image. So I'll just click on black and white. Now in the macros that I've made, I haven't altered any settings here, just so that it will be sort of universal for any image that you use it on. But as this isn't going to be a macro, I can be sort of image specific and make some alterations. Now because these strawberries look a bit pale and pasty, I'm just going to move the red slider to the left slightly to darken them a bit, just to make them look less unappetizing. And then I will click on merge, and the next adjustment I would be doing is of the brightness and contrast, and I'm just going to alter the contrast up to about 20%, and again click merge. Let me just shut those down and then come to the layer, so that we still have the 2 layers. And the next thing I want to do is I want to duplicate this layer again, so I will right click and come to duplicate, and this time I'm going to change the blending mode of this new black and white layer to multiply. Now this will make the image much darker, because we're going to be sort of making a vignette from this layer, and to do that I'm going to select this icon here to add a layer mask, which and once you've added it, that is what is selected, so I'll be painting onto just that layer. So I'm going to come to the brush tool and on the basic brush set, I'm going to pick a fairly soft brush, which should be, I'm going to go to the one right at the bottom in the basics tab, which is 512 round light brush. Just make sure that the colour is black, yes, and even that is a bit small, so I'll use the right square bracket key just to increase the size, and I'm just going to make sure the opacity is 100, yes. So I'm just going to paint onto this area in the center of the picture, just to bring back the lighter image that is below, leaving the outside edge a bit dark, giving me that sort of vignette effect. Now if you wanted to make this even darker around the edges, you could duplicate this layer again and then lower the opacity. I'm going to do it, but I will delete it just to show you what I mean, because I don't think I actually need it. But what I'll do is I will duplicate this, so that will make that even darker. But I would probably, if I was going to do this, I would maybe drop this down to the 50% mark. But as I don't necessarily think that is needed, I'm just going to delete that and just have it where I was. Right, so the next thing I want to do is to merge all these layers into a visible one single layer. So if I just right click this top layer and click on merge visible, it will make a single layer of all the layers below it. And it's to this that we're going to add the noise. So we come up to filters, noise, add noise, and I'm going to be on Gaussian and tick into monochrome, and I'm going to come quite high. I think I was on about 80% when I made the number 2 macro for this. Now this does look quite horrible, I must admit, but when you click on apply, it will sort of blend a bit better and this won't be as visible. So I'll just click apply, and as you can see, a lot of that noise has gone, but it is still added a lot of noise around especially around the outside areas, and not as grainy on the inside area. So next I'm just going to add another contrast adjustment, and let me just come off this brush tool, it's annoying me. And I'm going to bring this up to about 25% roughly. And that is pretty much the end of that tutorial. So you could just now export this image and save it under a new name. And so you now have your sort of gritty, grainy, black and white image. So just to put this to the test, let me just I'll open up another image here, which is this train image. I'll open up my library and I will just show you the different filters that macros I've made. Now I have found with making these macros that although it didn't look as grainy when I was making while I was making them, so like this one here, when it comes to actually using them, a lot of that graininess does come back. So I'll do the number 1 macro first, and as you can see, it is grainy around the outside, but not a lot. And if I remember rightly, I had the noise setting on about 20-25% when I did that one. I'll press Ctrl and Z, and I'll use number 2, which was, I think, like I did in this particular video, it was set on around the 80% mark, the noise. As you can see, that is very grainy. I'll press Ctrl and Z again, and number 3, I think it was almost on 100% the graininess, so that is probably a bit over the top, but it may work on whatever image that you want to use it on. So like I said earlier, these macros will be added to the file section of both the Facebook groups, so you can use them if you so wish. But if you just want to use it on a one-off basis, you could just use the steps as described in this video. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.